Okay, so obviously that was Lucas in Lviv, which is about 6 hours outside of Kyiv, which is the capital of Ukraine. We're now taking a live look at Kyiv, where explosions are being heard by our Fox correspondent Trey Yingst, who's there on the ground amid fears that this city could fall within days. I want to bring in foreign policy expert Michael Santo, who's joined us almost every single day this week. Michael, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Welcome.
Okay, so what would it take for Kyiv to fall? What are these next steps?
Oh, on the part of the Russians. Well, it's horrible. They could send special forces or tanks into the city. There is U.S. intelligence about plans to detain and kill or assassinate the leadership of the Ukrainian government. So they can strangle the city, they can bomb the city. The Russian methods are very brutal, and we've seen it in Chechnya, we've seen it in Syria, and there's a lot of use of assassinations and detaining people and torture. They can do it, but Ukraine is putting up a very powerful and heroic fight. So hopefully the Russians are not able to do it, but it's a very tough situation.
Yeah, you're saying they're putting up a powerful fight here, but the Ukrainian people decide Tuesday who are not evacuating.
I don't think I can watch anymore. This will be my last.
What could they face because of that?
This will be my last one.
Well, I mean, many of them are taking shelter. Many of the metro stations were built by the Soviets to be bomb shelters. I don't think that the Russians are going to go out of their way, thankfully, to kill as many civilians as possible, because it will make them look bad. It will only complicate their next steps, whatever it is, whether they want a puppet government, occupy part of Ukraine, or unfortunately move on and one day attack other countries. So they don't have an incentive to kill civilians deliberately for the most part, but the pattern of the Russian military is just not to care. So the Ukrainian citizens have to follow instructions of their local authority and do the best that they can to take cover, and they need to find bomb shelters and avoid potential military targets as best as they can.
So we've already seen airstrikes and we've seen movement on the ground. What could a war potentially look like between Russia and Ukraine, and also expanding possibly after that?
Russian military has powerful artillery, and they rely heavily on it. And artillery can be very effective to take out military targets, but it's hard even nowadays to aim it adequately. So they're very powerful, very destructive, and can be devastating to civilian populations. And Russia is taking control of strategic parts of Ukraine right now. It's hard to know how this plays out. It's hard to know the dynamic in Russian society. If God willing, there could be the opposition to stop Putin from within Russia, which I think is our only hope right now. For the most part, if they move further than Ukraine, they will be attacking NATO member states. The United States is obligated to defend. And I do take a different opinion on this than many, many experts. I'm not at all convinced, unfortunately, that Putin is afraid of clashing with U.S. forces. And I think that is another difficult issue.
I don't think he's afraid to do so.
Possibly going to face in coming months and years if Russia doesn't stop in Ukraine. But nobody can predict Putin for certain, actually. I mean, nobody. But I think he is extremely ruthless. I think he has very high risk tolerance. He's willing to make huge gambles.
I agree.
That border on the reckless, but they're not entirely as reckless as people think, because the Russian military is very, very powerful, and he knows that any American president has to be very careful in a situation like this.
When you say that Putin is not scared of clashing with U.S. forces, expand on that. What do you mean?
Well, in February 2018, contractors, they weren't regular Russian military, but they must have basically been under the command of the Kremlin. February 2018, they attacked our forces in Syria. And it was the deadliest fighting between Russian and U.S. forces since the 1950s. And it must have